We're back. Thursday night, Thirsty Thursday in some parts of the world, at least those parts that are good parts where you can have a Thirsty Thursday. It's a 4-game slate on our partner DraftKings. We've got all 4 games covered. I'm here as usual with DC Draft Sheet. We're going to break these games down, answer any questions you may have. Go ahead, drop them in the chat here. And before lock, cores will be up. Player pools will be up. Slate Builder will be up. The Boom Report is going to be up. That's been something new and something that is evolving now with a tournament score to give you some leverage options as well, DC. We got some day baseball that I decided to get a little bit different, but I made a couple of chalk lineups, so I'm not doing too terrible because it was kind of a chalk slate for the most part. Outside of pitching, I did play some Dean Kramer. I thought about playing Casey Mize. I just didn't get there. He looks like he's going to be maybe the top scoring pitcher on the day. And I remember looking at it thinking, man, why is nobody playing Casey Mize? Why is everybody like the Rockies here? He's been so good. Looks like maybe he is taking that step forward. How are you doing, DC?
I'm doing well. I did not play the early slate. It was one of those situations where, maybe
you miss out.
Yeah, you could maybe play. I had stuff to do, but you could maybe make it work. Find some time to get on the phone in between, tasks. And then I looked at the slate, looked at the pitching, and I was like, you know what? I'll see you in the afternoon. I'll see you for the main slate. So I didn't end up playing. The pace-eating Rockies down 10-1. I mean, no surprise, right? It's I really think MLB's got to step in and do something about the Rockies. Make ownership sell, or just, man, it's brutal, brutal here in Denver. But
it's not just the Rockies though. You have the Angels who are, who knows what they're doing. It's not like they're building. It's not like they're trying to contend. It's just a lost franchise. The Pirates have had so many top draft picks over the last several years. Really thought that at some point they would head in the right direction. Today they fire their manager. It's not Derek Shelton's fault, DC, that they're out signing guys like Andrew Heaney, Bailey Falter's on this roster for a 3rd year in a row. They're rolling out Tommy Pham every day. There's some issues in Major League Baseball. For all the good that Rob Manfred did last year with the pitch clock, with the designated hitter in both leagues, looking at different things. Now even shrinking the strike zone this season, there's some real, and it's like the corners of the country, right? Tampa has an issue. Pittsburgh has an issue. I personally think Toronto has an issue. It's not spending money. They're just poorly run. And I don't see a path to them to contend in the near future. Then you mentioned it, Colorado, Los Angeles Angels. Then on the other side of LA, you got the Dodgers buying up everyone who's available. So it's a very, very weird time in Major League Baseball from the standpoint of competitive balance.
Yeah. I think baseball's dealing with it. I think all the American major sports are. There's too many teams. They expanded too much, and you see it. I mean, you see it with baseball, right? Like these teams. I mean, we're in May, and a lot of these teams are like running out of pitching already. You go to the NBA. I mean, that's a whole nother issue. The regular season in the NBA with stars constantly sitting out. But even like the NFL, I mean, there's not enough good quarterbacks to go around. Half the teams rolling out garbage passers, which makes the game less fun to watch. So I don't know. Could rant on, but that's what I think happened.
It's sacrilege, and we're not allowed to mention this here, but at least in the NBA, you do have an exciting young team from Oklahoma City in the playoffs. We won't talk about that game, though. I understand that we will not discuss that. But you've got a Baltimore hat on, DC. I mean, the Orioles, here they were going about it the right way, going about it the same way they built the team in Houston, because it's the same group of executives and maybe just some bad injury luck and then maybe just some bad choices. And I mean, there's a team now that also was expected to contend and doesn't look like they're going to be doing that anytime in the near future. But these are all –
I have to wear the Orioles hat when they're not on the slate, lest that people get confused and think that I might be playing the Orioles tonight, which I never do. So, not on the slate. They played earlier. Of course, they lost. But the hat is safe to wear. I don't want to mislead the people. You understand?
Yeah. Andrew Martinez says the tariffs are going to get the Blue Jays. That's the risk you run if you're outside the U.S. right now. We'll get into this 4-game slate. DC starts at 7:05. They could have made it a 5-gamer at 6:40. I think I would have preferred that. I mean, these 4-gamers with with some smaller prize pools. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it on Thursdays, but we'll get through it regardless. 7:05, first game on the slate. It is in Tampa Bay. This has been a fun park for the Phillies so far this week as well. They stay there. They take on the Rays. Jesus Luzardo at 9K against Ryan Pepio at 6,300 DC. The Rays for years have talked about how great their pitching is, how they pride themselves on developing pitching. It's kind of fallen by the wayside here. Pepio at 6'3", I guess, is maybe interesting just due to the price point, but another bad start for Shane Baz last night. Drew Rasmussen beaten up the night before. And these Phillies look like they're finally starting to hit, which is what was lacking for them so far in the early going because the pitching's been pretty good. But what do you think about this one? Not a significant risk of any weather there. There will be some rain in the area, but not expected to dampen the festivities. Your thoughts?
Yeah, should play like a hitter-friendly park tonight. And frankly, probably for much of the rest of the season in Tampa, going to be warm. But you do have light winds blowing out, going to be a good home run park. And yeah, this Phillies offense is dangerous. We're going to see that. I think, as long as they can stay healthy with their big bats in the middle of the lineup pretty frequently. Anytime these guys are up against a kind of a mediocre right-handed arm, Harper, Schwarber in the middle of that lineup look good to me. We got a new pope today, so Nick Castellanos bets are flying in. The sports books are counting their money. They're doing well. So shout out to DraftKings, DK partner here on the show. But you can't play Nick Castellanos. If every donkey in the world is betting him to hit a home run, you got to find someone else to play in DFS. So I'm not playing him. It was the same thing as yesterday. Kind of this lefty power for the Phillies. Harper, Schwarber, Bryson Stott looks good up top. I think all those guys look like pretty good plays. And yeah, the Phillies look like a good stack. The pitching on the slate is interesting, JT. I think of the 8 starting pitchers, there's 4 games, so 8 starting pitchers. I actually think 7 of them are pretty reasonable plays. The only guy that I completely would throw out is Brandon Pfaadt against the Dodgers. No interest there. But everybody else, I think, is kind of priced kind of where they should be, including Pepio, right? So he's not one of my favorites, but I do think he's usable at 6,300. There's enough strikeouts in this lineup to go there. Obviously going to have to avoid the power. And, he's not a safe option, but he's 6,300 for a reason. I do think he's an okay play. And Luzardo, too. I mean, he's been pretty awesome for the Phillies to start the season. Can certainly use him. I'm a little worried about this top of the Rays lineup for him. Diaz, Morel, Camporeale, kind of a tough 3, but I do expect Luzardo to be good. And I think he's third or fourth for me. Luzardo is on this slate in terms of my pitching rankings of what I want to play. I think third on Luzardo. So I do like him, but I do think you can play against him too. Again, this is a good hitter's park for everybody. Luzardo's not, despite the results so far, he's not untouchable, especially against right-handed bats. So I do have some interest, especially in the top of the Rays order. And then, like I said, it's the power lefties on the Phillies that I want the most.
Luzardo is going to get ownership here. The price point is just in that weird spot because you've got Bassett right below him at a nice price against the aforementioned Angels. You've got Yamamoto at 10K against the Diamondbacks, and Yamamoto has just been on a tear so far this season. Then you have these guys in the lower range. One, of course, going to be very popular that we'll talk about here in the next game. So I don't know if Luzardo comes in at 30% or maybe he comes in a little bit under because people are like, hey, at this price point, I can go down and kind of get replacement value, or I can go up and maybe take advantage of a Diamondback team that hasn't really been a team that we want to attack, but at least so far this week has struggled a little bit. Looks like maybe they're in a little bit of a mini slump, although they always get up to play the Los Angeles Dodgers. But we'll talk about that game when we get to it. Any questions, go ahead and drop them in here. Always love it. Always love it when Derek Ringering comes in and talks about the dew point. That is something that gets us going here, is the low 70s dew point. I might not be able to make it.
Derek, if you get in the RPS Discord and make such a comment, we'll get your face in the clouds with the rest of us. We'll be
in the cloud. We do. What did you think, by the way, of my buddy JP's rendering of the RPS meteorologists?
It was beautiful. I love to see it. We had 3 of us in there. We need a 4th for the Mount Rushmore of RPS meteorologists. So get on in, Derek. Join the RPS Discord there.
Can't be Stevie Storms, by the way. Stevie Storms he's not an official meteorologist. He breaks that out every now and then, and we love it when he does that. But yeah, we need a 4th one, Derek. Keep it coming. We'll talk about dew points and weather as we move on. The next game, DC, it's the Reds and the Braves. Braves took 2 of 3 so far. Lost a little bit of a heartbreaker last night against this team. But Nick Lodolo, 6,700. Pretty cheap price point for him against the Braves, who have just hit absolutely nobody so far this season. And then Spencer Schwellenbach at 7,700. Now, there is some potential weather in terms of a thunderstorm in the Atlanta area. Not expected to be a long delay if it gets over the park, but could be an issue. I don't expect it to be an issue. What are your thoughts here? Schwellenbach at 7,700 looks like he's going to be the highest owned pitcher on this slate, DC.
Yeah, at least right now, I'm just playing this game and really this whole slate as if there's not going to be weather issues. Obviously, subject to change in the next 2 hours, but it would have to get a lot worse in Atlanta for me to move off of Schwellenbach, who the results have been, pretty bad for him recently. 2 negative starts of the last 4, one in Toronto and in the last one against the Dodgers. Even in between those 2 starts, he was just okay against the Diamondbacks. St. Louis was kind of just okay against Philly. You got to go back, all the way to May 4th, the last time he got over 20 fantasy points. So the results haven't been there for Schwellenbach, but I'm still pretty damn confident in his ability as a pitcher. And I think the good results are coming for Schwellenbach. And I think they're coming tonight against Cincinnati. I was on Smith Shawver. You remember that, sure. I'm sure very well. JT Sale owned them. You have to get off when fake Kenny Powers pitches. I never play fake Kenny Powers. He wasn't very good. But I do think the Braves pitching gets back on track here. Schwellenbach, to me, he's a 9K plus pitcher, which I believe he's been he's been, he was 10.5K against Toronto, which frankly, that might be a little much, but maybe somewhere in the middle, right? maybe a 9K-ish pitcher talent-wise for Schwellenbach. Gets this Reds team. It's a team to pick on. He's too cheap. Again, I do think there are, for a 4-game slate, there is pretty decent pitching options, I think. But yeah, Schwellenbach is my number 1. He will be the highest owned pitcher on this slate, barring deteriorating weather, right? Would be the thing that would maybe change that, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think I'm eating the chalk here, mostly JT on Schwellenbach. I'm seeing 40% owned.
I think he comes in higher than that. And this is the question that I have for you. With Luzardo, with Yamamoto, Bassett against the Angels, Lodolo against the Braves. Look, I sat behind home plate and watched Andrew Abbott carve up this team. Carve up this fucking team. I honestly have more interest in Lodolo at 6,700, just because when you think about, not that I'm not playing Schwellenbach, I am, but when you think about should Schwellenbach be 50% on this slate, I don't think he should.
Yeah.
The Reds are tough on the base pass, DC.
I can see the argument just because I'm with you. I do like Lodolo too. So again, maybe I'm a little higher on Schwellenbach than you. I am fine playing him at 40, 50% ownership. But I do go in a different direction because, like I said, there are better options. Lodolo versus the Braves, JT, at this price point, 6,700, you got to have some interest. You got to have some. Just a very talented arm. he can be all over the place, gives up home runs, control can elude him at times. So this is, to me, a classic. I kind of want to play both sides of this. Obviously not in the same lineup, but I like Lodolo lineups. But I also like Albies and Sean Murphy and Austin Riley and Big Beater Marcelo Ozuna. I think all those guys are good plays too. So I'm playing both sides of this, playing 5 lineups tonight. I'll have, I think, a couple shares of Lodolo, so that put me at 40% over the 40% over the field of what might be a 20% ownership. But I'll be over on the Braves too. Most of my lineups are going to have either Lodolo or some Braves right-handed power in them.
We have a beautiful picture in Discord of.
I knew you were laughing at something. I couldn't. It wasn't in chat. So
this is a. I wish I knew how to share it on this fucking thing. I'll tell you. We got the first Catholic Pope, first American Pope though, DC, and the people are saying that he looks like an older Peter Christensen. They say that there is a striking resemblance between you and who is now Pope Leo. I see it. Well, to be honest,
this is a gambling friendly podcast. Don't be betting on old DC to be the next to be a pope at any point in his life, because that
wouldn't bet on that. Wouldn't bet on that. All right. Let's move on. Stevie Storms is in Discord saying Saber loves the Angels bats. Who cares? They often like teams that don't score runs. So, but let's talk about this one. Chris Bassett 8,500, Jose Soriano at 6K. The 6K stands out for Soriano. Bassett seems to be appropriately priced. We worry about left-handed bats for Bassett. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of them in the Angels lineup. They are just bad left-handed bats. What are your thoughts? Darnell says Saber does not like the Angels bats. So I don't know. It's something that Stevie Storms did. DC, Angels hosting the Blue Jays. Blue Jays disappointed a lot of people last night. Will they get to Soriano tonight?
So I'm not playing the Blue Jays here. This is kind of one of the spots on this short slate where I don't love either side of it. I do think Soriano is in play at 6K. He's a pitcher who's going to give you 90 pitches. He's a decent arm. Matchup's okay. He's at home. I mean, again, at 6K, a fine play at his ownership. I'll do it if I got a team that I love and I just need the savings and he fits. I'm okay with Soriano. I'm off the Blue Jays here. I just think there are better spots, namely the Dodgers, who we'll talk about shortly. But the Blue Jays are fine against Soriano. He's just not a guy who gives up much power. And this isn't a power hitting team. So it seems like a game where Soriano goes 5 or 6 innings and gives up, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 hits, but singles and doubles, and they don't have any speed. And I just don't think there's going to be enough fantasy juice there from the Blue Jays to end up on the winner. So kind of avoiding both sides of the Soriano versus Blue Jays matchup. I'm with you on Bassett. I get the sense that you are on the Chris Bassett train tonight, JT. You'll obviously correct me if I'm wrong. Like you said, really, really good against righties, which is most of this lineup. I don't think it's out yet, but the lefties will be Nolan Shanuel, who's really hasn't done much all year long. Juan Moncada, who I believe has homered in back-to-back games, I think both from the left side. So I guess you could make a case that's a risky hitter for Bassett, but Moncada's been pretty bad for a long time. So I'm not exactly super afraid of that. And then Rengifo, I think, will only be the other lefty in the lineup. Again, not a guy with a ton of power. So this does look like a good matchup for Chris Bassett, who's been pretty damn good this year. Although, last 3 starts, pretty tough matchups in Houston, in New York, and in Cleveland. I guess Cleveland and Houston, not that tough. So, been a little shaky, but overall, the numbers do look good for Bassett. I think he's a pretty good play here. To me, the decision is between him and Luzardo, who's a little more expensive. I think it's a close call. Curious where you ended up between those two. But I do like Chris Bassett quite a bit, and I think he might be my number 2 behind Schwellenbach. Where'd you end up here, JT?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Bassett is one of these guys that when he gets really popular, I want to be off of him. That Houston start that people were talking about, I was on Houston. The price point for Bassett was just the wrong price point. Here, like I said, he's appropriately priced. Like I could see him doing well, but I could also see him fading in terms of fantasy production, just compared to some of the other guys in this, on this slate tonight. So I don't want to get sucked into, I'm going to play him because he's playing the Angels, right? Because all pitchers can fail. Every offense can have a good night from time to time. I think he's a good play. I don't know how much I'm going to have of him. Soriano at 6K. I just don't know if I'm going to get there on this slate, just because there's so many other options. And I don't, the other thing that I've been looking at least, because I've been looking at this, last couple of weeks, I'm seeing different lineups winning. And I don't know whether it's the pinch hit risks on many of these teams now, or it's the fact that scoring is, generally down a little bit. We're now seeing a lot of 4-2 teams in the winter. And so when you start thinking about that, do I need to go to Soriano? No, I can find a cheap hitter. I think Laureano was in the winter today, right? So I'm not sure that I'm going to need to get down to Soriano. I'll definitely be playing, as of right now, I'll definitely be playing Bassett. I just don't know how much I'm going to have him. But it is a good bounce back spot here for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, hand building my teams, I did come across one team where got the perfect 5-3 that I wanted and had 6,100 left.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem plugging in Soriano in that situation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Last game of the night. We've got a game that we've kind of talked about a little bit, mentioned here and there. Dodgers, fresh off of, where were they? They were in Miami, weren't they? Fresh off of a nice little flight from Miami, where they simply destroyed the Marlins for a few games. Headed to Arizona, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 10K, and he faces Brandon Pfaadt, who is 8K flat here in Arizona. This park has been hit and miss. Not a great park for hitters so far this season. Like I said, especially during the day, it seems doesn't matter because the roof is usually closed, but Dodgers very expensive, as you would expect. I guess the back half of their order is not, but the back half of their order has a lot of guys that you don't really want to play a bunch. Speaking of Michael Confortos of the world, what are your thoughts here on the Dodgers and the D-backs?
Yeah, Dodgers, perhaps no surprise, but by far my favorite stack on the slate. I love playing left-handed power against Brandon Pfaadt. Always have. He's doing it again. He's giving up a ton of power to lefty bats, and of course the Dodgers have some good ones. And I've talked a lot about this Arizona bullpen. It's depleted, lost their two best arms, and they only have one left-handed pitcher in the bullpen. It's Jalen Beeks, who pitched yesterday. So I actually think these Dodgers lefties, I assume Outman and Hye-Sung Kim will, no lineup yet, but I assume those guys are going to be in there. They'll be at the bottom. They're super cheap, and a decent chance that they're going to get to play all 9 innings here. Conforto's the one you mentioned. I kind of don't want him. He's in a massive, massive slump. But the other Dodgers, Ohtani, Freeman, Outman, Kim, even Max Muncy, I know he's been bad. I'm definitely willing to play him at 3,400. And, yeah, the Dodgers just absolutely eviscerated that Marlins pitching staff. I won't be surprised if they do something similar to the Diamondbacks. I know it's a much better team, but this bullpen is in really, really bad shape right now. And the Dodgers, man, when they're kind of clicking on all cylinders at the moment. Freddie Freeman, he's got that weird ankle thing going on where he's like missed some time. He's like slipped in the shower. It seems like almost seems like the surgery or procedure wasn't like completely, I don't know, like it didn't completely take care of the issue. But right now, you can see he feels good. He's swinging a great bat. So Ohtani, first guy in my lineup tonight. Freeman not far behind him. And then these other Dodgers lefties, I think are awesome plays too. Of course, you can mix in Betts, Will Smith, Andy Pages. This whole lineup looks good to me. I don't think Pfaadt's very good, especially against lefties. And I'm in on the Dodgers. A priority for me to get these guys into my lineup tonight. No Pfaadt, like I mentioned, he's the one pitcher that I'm unwilling to play. Everyone else, I think, is at least okay if they fit what you need. And then Yamamoto, I'm not playing him, JT, in my 5 lineups. If I was playing more, he would certainly be a guy that would mix in. But to me, the priority is spending on guys like Ohtani and Freeman, not getting all the way up to Yamamoto. Obviously, it could work. Yamamoto's a brilliant pitcher, but when I look at the matchups, would I rather spend on these power lefties against Fott or the most expensive pitcher in, let's be honest, a pretty tough matchup. Low strikeout rates. It's a good lineup. I know they've been slumping a little bit, but it's still not a team by any means that I'm dying to play a pitcher against. Yamamoto's been awesome. He could do it again. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But he's the one pitcher who, brilliant pitcher, but I decided to go a different direction on my own teams today.
And that's fair. Look, if you think the Dodgers are going to score a bunch of runs, then you have to realize that Yamamoto is just going to pitch probably 5, max 6 innings. He'll get you 25, 30, which is great, and you take that. But if you could get 25 from one of these lower-priced pitchers, and you may need to if you want to roster the Dodgers. Story today about how the Dodgers have the fewest innings thrown by starting pitchers. Some of that is injury related, but a lot of that is simply because when you're up by 7 in the 5th, they're not going to take any chances with these guys. So makes perfect sense. Derek Ringering is vying DC for the RPS Hall of Fame. First dew points, now wraparounds. I mean, this is one hell of an afternoon by our friend Derek. Sorry, Joe Ruff, but all right. The Dodgers are obviously your most important stack here for you on the evening. Give me a contrarian stack.
I guess it's going to be the Braves for me. Again, that right-handed power against Lodolo. I've just seen him a few times when I've rostered, more than a few times when I've rostered him, get kind of crushed by right-handed hitters. And when he's off, it really goes south for him. So again, it's hard to predict when a pitcher is going to, be able to command and have their good stuff. But I do think there's a pretty good chance this Braves team is going to do significant damage to Lodolo, to the Reds bullpen. I am almost entirely sticking to the right-handed bats. Lodolo's given up almost no power to left-handed hitters over the last couple seasons. So give me all the Braves righties as the contrarian stack. And they do, for the most part, fit pretty well with the Dodgers as well.
Beefy 5-layer is here with the BVP report today.
Two home runs and 7 at-bats for Conforto against Fox.
That is very impressive. Give me a contrarian pitcher. And obviously it can't be Nick Lodolo.
Yeah. I guess it's Soriano for me then, who, again, not expecting a huge outing from him, but I do think he does enough. Of course, you're going to need your the expensive bats to go off to the point where you need to have those guys. But if that happens, yeah, I think you could get away with Soriano getting you 15 or so fantasy points.
All right. Yeah, I nothing would make me happier than to see Los Bravos actually do something here. I can't tell you how disheartening it is watching this team.
They've actually been pretty good over the last couple of weeks.
I mean, 3 runs a game, 4 runs a game. 3-2. The game I went to, I think they won 2-1 in 12.
Yeah.
This is I'd love for it to happen. I'd love for them to break out. I really would. I'm looking at all these teams and I'm like, there's not a ton of edge here in terms of getting different on this slate.
No.
Jake Swale says that he's simply not stacking the Dodgers without Conforto. Good luck to you.
JJ, this is your lineups need to make sense kind of slate, right? You get the correlation that you can. Maybe you play some mini stacks. It's hard to get. 4-game slates are always that way, but this slate in particular, it seems pretty hard to get way off the beaten path here.
I guess the most under-owned team that could do damage would be the Rays, right? I mean, there's some issues in that Philly bullpen.
Yeah.
Really, I think the only place where they have any issues right now, now that the offense is coming around. But all right, Coors will be in I mean, we got an hour and a half until the slate, so there's plenty of time. People will be in the Discord answering questions. And that's it. That's it. 4 games, DC.
Yeah.
Good luck to you. Good luck in your contest tonight.